JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. Now, you're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of any of the other channels? And that's because over there, they don't care about what you have to say. They say this all the time. They talk down to us. They think we're just a bunch of clowns on YouTube, Twitter. But I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about. So I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. So without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching a clip of The Herd with Colin Cowherd, but he's interviewing none other than the Nick Wright. I haven't watched this interview, and so they're obviously going to be talking about a handful of things, so let's really just jump right into it and see, because the only thing I can see right now, they're just talking about the 49ers being favored in every game, and is Mahomes the NFL's villain, which is just silly to say that he's a villain. Majority of people love him. Obviously, people root against him if you're the fan of another team and stuff like that, but he's not a villain. Baker Mayfield was a bigger villain than Patrick Mahomes. So this idea that he's a villain is just stupid.
Well, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, listen, the Niners are going to be the first team in 7 years since the 2017 Patriots to be favored in every single game of the season. They're going to be just the sixth team in modern NFL history to be favored 19 or more times in a year. They'll actually be favored 20 times, but that's thanks to the extra game, of course. This is, to me, not that surprising because there has been a concerted media effort for the last 4 months that, despite my attempts to push against, has been talking about this Chiefs team as if they are broken frauds, as if they have a Hall of Fame coach and the greatest quarterback we've ever seen and a wildly underrated defense. But I don't know, that wide receiver 3 position has been shaky, so that's why the Browns are a better bet to win the AFC. You right now, Colin, are a man that has been throwing matches and kerosene around a house, and you're walking outside and you're like, why is that thing on fire? What are you called, Colin? The most trusted voice in sports media? What is that? What it is?
The honesty, like America's honesty broker.
America's honesty broker for 4 months, when the show's on fire, getting record ratings, is telling people what's wrong with the Chiefs. They're not all of a sudden going to think the Chiefs are great. I'm glad you're coming around, but you've done this. You and your ilk have done this. So
There's a huge difference with this. One, even Nick Wright himself had acknowledged throughout the season that the Chiefs' offense wasn't looking that great, that they had a bunch of these losses that were really bad, and that he was even, starting to become worried. That was him. And when you look and see some of the teams that they had to beat, I mean, like, if the Broncos had their act together, the Chiefs would have literally been fighting for a wild card spot. Okay? So just because the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl now, let's stop acting like the Chiefs just had this great, easy run. Compare that to the 49ers, who really only had like a few game stretch where things were tough, which Brock Purdy, the bad weather conditions. The other one was that Brock Purdy may have been concussed, and the other one is just what happens in football. You can't win every single game. And yet the 49ers convincingly won, right? They definitely got undressed against the Ravens, but for the long time, people saw the Ravens as this unstoppable juggernaut. But the 49ers were convincingly beating teams, while on the flip side, you had the Chiefs lose to the Eagles, who were not that good, lose to the Bills, who, by Nick Wright's own admission, he doesn't think that the Bills were ever that good, as well as like losing to the Packers, loss to the Raiders, like all of these things. So this idea that the Chiefs just had their act together, like even the Chiefs players were starting to unravel. Travis Kelce slamming his helmet, Patrick Mahomes screaming at the players, screaming at the refs, doing all of these things that we never saw the Chiefs do. So how are the fans supposed to feel about it? How is the media supposed to feel about that? Seeing all these drop passes, seeing the players freak out, seeing, Andy Reid having to like stop one of his coaches from like giving the helmet back to Travis Kelce. They looked like a clown show. So you're going to evaluate them based on that. So now Nick Wright's just gaslighting everyone for saying like how dumb were they to ever think that, when it's like that was right in front of our eyes. Just because they were able to get organized and right the ship and obviously make it to the Super Bowl doesn't mean that the previous analysis and your opinions were wrong. If you doubted the Chiefs this season or said, wow, they don't really look as good, you were right to have those feelings. And that makes complete sense. So to doubt that is just, absurd. And so Nick is just doing this like epic gaslighting tour. I mean, he's talking about, Colin Cowherd spilling, gasoline and matches everywhere, but yet he is being a master gaslighter right now. Because that makes total sense. If you watch the regular season and you had to pick who do you think is a better team right now, you would say the 49ers. Yes, Patrick Mahomes. Yes, Travis Kelce. Yes, Andy Reid. All people that I have praised nonstop. They are the three GOATs of their own respective professions, their position / coach. But the 49ers just had a more complete team, a more organized team, a more cohesive team with less drama. They were together. They were united the entire season. So, which also really matters, especially in football. And again, make no mistake about it. The Chiefs were very fortunate to have the playoffs unfold as they were. The 49ers also had a lot of things that had to go their way for them to get to the Super Bowl. But make no mistake about it. Both these teams not only had to win their way to get to the Super Bowl, obviously, but they also had a lot of fortunate events happen for them. And again, I see it as both teams already did that. Last season, you saw a lot of these teams, within the last few seasons in general, you saw a lot of teams really convincingly win their way to the Super Bowl or even win the Super Bowl. And it wasn't so much on relying on other teams' mistakes or happen chance, all of this type of stuff. This season, very specific things needed to happen for both the Chiefs and the 49ers to win. They are definitely the most consistent teams, and they're the most resilient teams. And sometimes that's what it takes, right? Sometimes what makes a team special or how a team gets to the Super Bowl is because they're just so dominant and maybe not as resilient. And other teams are just more resilient. They can just, minimize the mistakes relative to other teams, so they just outlast the other teams. And in a lot of ways, the 49ers were kind of a tale of two stories. On one side, they were this juggernaut beating up other teams, and then throughout the playoffs, it was more like, okay, we're all making mistakes. We're all kind of not playing our best football, but you know what? We'll be able to withstand it. Our experience and our coaching and our players and our veteranships, we will be able to outlast your mistakes and your issues, aka the Packers, aka the Detroit Lions. And a similar thing with the Chiefs was like, okay, you know what? We're gonna not get by on our dominance because we're not as dominant as we were in years past. And so what we're going to have to get away with is relying on you to mess up. You know what, Josh Allen and the Bills, we guarantee you that you're not going to be able to make these big plays. Lo and behold, they're dropping these passes and missing field goals. Going to go up against the Ravens. You know what? We don't believe that you guys are going to come up with a great game plan. Lo and behold, the Lamar Jackson, the Ravens just were awful, and their own immaturity. Flowers reaching out on the end zone, getting taunting calls, getting in fights with Travis Kelce, just stupid stuff that people who've never won do. And the Chiefs we know exactly what we're doing. We've been here a million times before. So we're relying on their experience, their seniority, their, just their experience in general. And obviously Patrick Mahomes' brilliance when need be, but not relying on it every single play. That's the difference. And so that's why both these teams are here. And that's why it's going to be really interesting to see them go head to head, because is one team going to have to really impose their will on another team, or are the Chiefs going to be like, you know what, we're just going to bank on Brock Purdy not being able to step up? Or are the 49ers going to look at the Chiefs and say, you know what, we don't think that their offense is going to be able to cut it. Our offense is really good, and so they're going to have to put up points, and we don't think that the Chiefs are going to be able to rely on their receivers outside of Travis Kelce, so let's go. And it's going to be really interesting. That's why I'm really excited to see how this game is actually played itself.
Just make money off it, I guess.
I said this before to J-Mac. We got into a heated altercation earlier. I said, I think the Chiefs dynasty is great for the league. The Patriots wasn't. It was boring and very provincial. Alabama's wasn't. Yeah. Tim Duncan crushed ratings. Not every dynasty is fascinating. Reggie Bush in USC was good for the sport. right? Like that was big for the sport.
Michael's Bulls.
Yeah, great for the sport.
Was great for the sport.
Now, and not all dynasties become a villain. A lot of times, New England, we were like cheaters. I don't see the Chiefs as villains. Do you?
Well, so I think that they are disliked while also being really, really good for the sport. So I think they're disliked for a couple of reasons. There's obviously, and I think it's larger than 5%. I think it's probably closer to 10, 15% of people that simply hate Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, what they think their politics are and that stuff. So but take that out of it. I think the fact that the Chiefs never struggled. So the Jordan's Bulls were not villains. And Brew pointed this out on the show yesterday. You saw them for 6 years. I know the NBA pretends Michael's career was 6 years long, but it wasn't. For the first 6 years, you saw them fight, lose. Fight, lose. And then they finally broke through. LeBron and the Heat were hated until they lost to the Mavs, and then all of a sudden people softened on them.
Yeah.
The fact that the Chiefs were instantly awesome with Patrick. His first year, 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, they lose an epic AFC title game. And since then, they've played in 4 or 5 Super Bowls, won 2, and we'll see if they win a third. I think that there is a real animosity to the fact that they've been this good. And there's 2 other factors that I'm curious your take on. One is, I think people, when they traded away Tyreek, they were like, okay, now's going to be the moment. Then they win the Super Bowl. And then this year, when they struggle throughout the year, they're like, okay, now's the moment. And they're back in the Super Bowl. So they feel like, when is it going to end? But the other element, I think, is I don't think people realize, if you're a fan in the AFC, how brutal this last quarter century has been.
Yeah.
So from the Tuck rule, Colin, until today, if you're an here are the AFC quarterback Super Bowl appearances. Tom went to 9. Patrick has gone to 4. Peyton went to 4. Big Ben went to 3. So in the last basically 25 years, there's the random Flacco, Rich Gannon, and Joe Burrow. So you have a dozen, cities in one conference that are like, you got to be kidding me. We didn't, so because we didn't get.
So, okay, I agree with some of what Nick is saying, but I also strongly disagree, especially with what he said earlier about the Chiefs. People hate the Chiefs because they were really good from the very beginning or whatnot. That's just not true. The Chiefs took the world by storm, the NFL by storm. Patrick Mahomes did, and he became instantly likable. People instantly loved him because no one was really hearing about him. There wasn't this big buildup, and so they immediately loved him and got behind him because they were just like, whoa, who's this guy, right? And again, you big true football fans, you knew who Patrick Mahomes were. You were probably like waiting for him to get his go. You know Andy Reid's doing something. I get it. But again, the more casual fan, the person who, again, I'll use my dad as an example. He's an Eagles fan. He's watching the Eagles games. He doesn't really know who's getting drafted or who's the backup quarterback for the Chiefs are at the time, aka Patrick Mahomes. He's not doing that. And then Patrick Mahomes now hits the world, hits the league. And so to him, he's like, who's this Patrick Mahomes guy? And my dad doesn't watch college. And there's a lot of fans like that, both young and old. Definitely probably a little bit more common old, because I think older fans typically are more focused on their team, and I think younger fans, especially with like the internet and all of that, they're watching more games and they're just more fans of the sport, as on top of just them obviously enjoying their team. And so I think when Patrick Mahomes kind of hit the ground and the Chiefs hit the ground, there was no feeling, and they were so exciting to watch with Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, the innovation of Andy Reid, and obviously the magic of Patrick Mahomes. It was hard not to like it. It was very similar to the Warriors. The Warriors just boom seemingly out of nowhere, especially for a casual fan. It was like, Steph Curry, oh my God, what are these threes he's making? What is he doing? Klay Thompson, who's this Klay Thompson guy? His dad played basketball? Draymond Green, what the heck's a Draymond Green? Steve Kerr, is that the guy who played with Michael Jordan? Like, it just was like, bam, and then they started winning, and it was exciting, and it redefined basketball and the way you played, and that's a lot of what the Chiefs did, with Patrick Mahomes, was that it was like this new age of football in a lot of ways, and it was exciting and fast and quick and sidearm throws and all this type of stuff. And people didn't hate that. People loved it. People were rooting for Patrick Mahomes before he really even became Patrick Mahomes. And so this idea that he's this villain and people hate him, I just disagree with that. Yes, do some people just hate Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift? And you have people because Travis Kelce did a commercial for something that people don't like, which I'm not going to talk about because I don't need this. We're not talking politics here. And so do people already hate that? I'm sure, but that's different. That's a whole different conversation entirely. And that's part of it. And even Nick, for the sake of this conversation, he said, let's just we'll just take that aside. But in terms of that, I think people are also they get fatigued. They don't want to see Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl year in and year out and year in and year out, because it just can get boring. Honestly, it can. You want a variety. When you watch a TV show, you don't watch the same episode again and again and again and again and again. You love the show, but you want to see different episodes. So, and that's kind of what happens. And it is tough when you're watching football. You're watching a game, and it's the Jets versus the Panthers, and it's a 3.5-hour broadcast, and 30 of the commercials involve Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid. That's fatiguing. That is annoying. I love Andy Reid. I love Patrick Mahomes. I love Travis Kelce. And yet that's really annoying. It is. It's just obnoxious. I mean, you go on any social media apps, either two that have it. Every time I opened up an app like TikTok or whatever, and I just saw Travis Kelce, doing the thing where he lifts his sleeve up and smiles. And you're just like, okay, I get it. And then the Taylor Swift thing, which now builds up even more. And it's just tiring, no matter who it is, whether it's Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts. It just doesn't matter. No matter, anytime you're being shoved down your throat, the same person again and again and again and again, it's boring. It's annoying. It's just fatiguing. And so that's where some of that comes down to. And for me, as a fan of just the sport as a whole, I really love to see lots of different people win. And I love to see lots of different stories to win. So in the beginning, I was absolutely rooting for Patrick Mahomes to win. I was like, come on, Patrick. I wanted to see Andy Reid win his first Super Bowl, and I wanted Andy Reid to have all the success he can. And same thing with Patrick Mahomes, honestly, and anyone else on the Chiefs. But also it's like, okay, I want to see someone else win. I would have loved to see the Detroit Lions make it to the Super Bowl this year and win. I would have loved to have seen Josh Allen in the Super Bowl, Lamar Jackson in the Super Bowl. So as a fan, I would love to see just different, more unique stories. I'm here for entertainment. The NFL to me is entertainment. That's really what it comes down to. I am a big Eagles fan, but also at the end of the day, I want to be entertained. So if they lose in the NFC Championship game or whatever, but it was the most amazing, exciting, game ever. The Super Bowl, they lost in the Super Bowl. I was not disappointed. Was I bummed? Sure, that they didn't win. Absolutely, right? But at the same time, that was a really exciting, fun Super Bowl. Even when the Eagles did something bad, even when Jalen Hurts fumbled the ball, again, it's entertainment. It's exciting. It's like watching your favorite hero get shot or hurt, right? You don't want to just see him step up, just crush all of the villains, and then that's it. And he's like, okay, that was easy, then goes home. You want to see it go back and forth. You want to see your team almost struggle for a little bit, overcome. It's all a TV show. It's entertainment. And when you're watching the Chiefs again and again and again, it's not so much that they're the villains or that they hate them and they want to see Patrick Mahomes fail because they just hate him as a person. That's not the reality. That's just not. People felt more hate towards a Baker Mayfield because they saw him as someone who's really cocky and undeserving of some of what he's got and, and some of the things that he's done in his personality. So he was more of a villain than Patrick Mahomes has ever been. And if you don't take my word for it, take the advertisers that pay billions of dollars to make all of these commercials. They have so much science and research and data analysis. They know Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid are all very likable and that majority of people like them. Otherwise, they would not be the faces of these commercials. They wouldn't be. That's bad business for them. They pick who they think is likable, who they think they can sell you on. That's why Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and all those other players are there all the time. So if you don't want to take my word for it, take the billions of dollars of advertising money that say we want these guys there because our data shows that people really like this person. They really like Travis Kelce. They really like Patrick Mahomes. So this whole narrative that they're villains, that's just nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And you know someone like Nick Wright loves to just live and die by that. But that's my thoughts on this. What do you guys think about it? I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this one. Please let me know in the comments below. Please don't forget to subscribe. As I said, we are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really helps with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.